Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
All right, good evening, everybody. Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa means it's time indeed for TITV, as mentioned, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Our good friend Don Staley and his staff, man, they do a magical job here in West Alabama. Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Well, over a three-day span, both Alabama basketball teams have a chance to knock off the #1 teams in the country. For Alabama women, that comes on Thursday night at South Carolina. For men's basketball, that opportunity is tonight at Auburn. Now, this past Saturday, Alabama put it together. And when Alabama puts it together, the Tide has proven it can beat anybody. Ask Gonzaga, ask Houston, now ask Baylor. Alabama knocked off the defending national champion Bears 87-78. It's their third win over a team that was in the Final Four last year. That's only the sixth team in the past 30 years to beat three of the previous Final Four from the year before in the regular season. And with the win, Alabama improved to 14-7 overall, but has a big week ahead. #1 ranked Auburn tonight before coming home on Saturday night to face #5 Kentucky. All right, Alabama basketball, Rod, seems to play to the level of its competition. They're 5-1 against ranked teams. That only lost coming to Auburn by 4 points. But they have 6 losses against teams that aren't ranked. And they have had a hard time finding consistency. Now, that may bode well for tonight against the #1 ranked team in the country, but what do you make of it? A team that can be so good and at, 2 or 3 games or even the next game down the road be so bad?
I think it's immaturity, Gary. I think it's just a team that has to continue to grow up. Obviously, they've got a ton of potential. They're beating teams that are, the teams that you mentioned, Gonzaga, Houston, Baylor. Those are 3, obviously, tremendous wins. But, again, I just think it's focus. I think it's maturity as a team. I think those things have certainly haunted this team down in some of these games. So, but you're right. Maybe it bodes well for tonight.
How good were they against Baylor? Well, they scored 87 points on just 49 shot attempts. They were 29 of 49 from the field, over 70% from 2. They were still just average, 33% from 3, but they went 22 of 26 from the free throw line. They out-rebounded the Bears, and they had 16 assists. Rodney, they shared the basketball, and they got some easy buckets. I think that's important. Even when you're a three-point shooting team, particularly if you're not making them, you got to get into the painted area. You got to get baskets, and you got to get to the foul line. And that's what they did against the Bears, and they'll need to do that some tonight against Auburn.
They definitely will. And again, obviously, a much bigger chore tonight being on the road, Gary. But, again, I think it goes back to a team that is still developing. You've got a lot of new players, a lot of young players. And I think still the leadership is still developing. How about Javon Quinterly?
Yeah, when
he really stepped it up.
When he plays well, they're a really good basketball team. They'll need everybody playing well tonight at Auburn. Well, now it's time for Coach Talk. Sometimes it feels like this team doesn't play with enough energy, enough focus, particularly when playing unranked teams. But you don't have to worry about that for the next 2 games. As we mentioned, they've got #1 Auburn tonight, #5 Kentucky this coming Saturday night. They just played 4th-ranked Baylor. Here's what Alabama head coach Nate Oates said and has his thoughts now on the next couple of matchups moving forward for this basketball team.
The thing is, the next 2 games aren't those games that we've struggled in, so I anticipate us playing hard, playing well, playing with a lot of focus, a lot of energy, and then we'll just have to see if we can't maintain that focus every single game we play from here on out.
Indeed, again, that's an 8 p.m. tip-off tonight at the Auburn Arena. ESPN will televise. Of course, you can also listen to it with Chris Stewart and Brian Passek on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. I've got a crew down at Auburn. We'll have coverage tonight at 10 and then a full report tomorrow night at 5 and 6. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV. Tomorrow is National Signing Day Part 2. Will Alabama sign anybody? And will the Crimson Tide have a shot to overtake Texas A&M and get the top-ranked 2022 recruiting class? We'll discuss that when we come back. And the Crimson Tide picked up its first commitment for the class of 2023. He's got a familiar name if you're an Alabama sports fan. He's a Bama legacy. We'll tell you about it after the break. And, of course, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email us, TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Been doing it for over 20 years. Tider Insider TV will return right after this. And welcome back to TITV, sponsored by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and phone lines are open. I know we don't get to them until the next segment, but oftentimes people will call and they'll say, what's busy? It's not busy right now. If you want to go ahead and give us a ring at 205-348-9882, you can get through and be ready for the next segment. All right, tomorrow is National Signing Day. At least it used to be. With the December signing period, Rodney, let's just be honest, most of it is wrapped up. But still, this is an opportunity for players that are unsigned to sign. There will be some signings. Of course, we're focused on Alabama, and the Crimson Tide did most of its work in December. 23 signees in the early period. I think 13 of them may already be enrolled. It's rated as the second best class in the country according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, but there are a couple of offers out there, Rodney. Let's track them. First, let's start with Danny Lewis, the tight end out of Westgate High School in New Iberia, Louisiana. Now, LSU's really turning up the heat. He's a Louisiana kid. I got to think new coach Brian Kelly and LSU leaders here, but Bama does have an offer out to him.
Yeah, Florida's in the mix too, Gary, and actually I spoke to someone at Florida today. They don't think they're going to end up with Danny Lewis. They think it's Alabama or LSU. Probably LSU. They got the last visit. Alabama got the visit the weekend before, and he actually took a visit to Florida as well this past weekend. You see him. I mean, he's a good-looking kid there physically. Got a lot of room to grow. Got a great frame. You saw the way he catches the ball, Gary. He's a guy that I think in a couple of years can be a really good player. And
Alabama is looking for another tight end. If they don't get Lewis, keep an eye on the portal. Alabama could still do something there. Also, an offer has been given recently to offensive lineman Jalen Farmer out of Eastside High School in Covington, Georgia. He was a Florida commit, but Kentucky's pushing hard. Auburn's pushing hard. But he said his dream offer was Alabama.
Yeah. Well, I actually talked to his coach earlier this week. He's 6'6", 330 pounds, and only 17 years old. And, here's the thing, Gary. Alabama just jumped in the mix, offered him about a week ago. Word is, as we know, nothing official, but Eric Wolford, the offensive line coach for Kentucky, is supposedly heading this way, according to some reports. He has recruited Farmer very heavily for Kentucky. That's something that could be really interesting. Again, he's a young player that really looks good physically and got a lot of potential.
All right, and since I mentioned the portal, Alabama's got 3 transfers already from the portal, and there's a possibility that Alabama, as I said, could add a tight end, another wide receiver, maybe even a player on the offensive line or defense. Do you think that the portal will provide more opportunities for the Crimson Tide before this season is here?
I think it's certainly possible. We'll see. Again, we noted this in recent shows that, Gary, Jamison Williams didn't even enter the portal until late April last year. So there may be some guys that enter it late after spring practice at their current schools. Alabama may jump in. You mentioned some positions. I agree with you on those positions. Certainly, I think of another quality receiver, and I think Jermaine Burton's a great player. But I think if you find another really experienced player that's had a lot of success, maybe a wide receiver, you mentioned tight end. What about left tackle?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
They had some success, obviously, with a guy like Landon Dickerson coming in, a guy that's a plug-and-play. So maybe you find a guy at that position.
And as far as the 2022 classes, we said 23 signees back in December. It's ranked second in the country, and we're looking at some of the signees from December. Again, obviously, most of Alabama's class has already been put together, but there are a lot of really talented players in this class, as is usually the case.
Yeah, had a great year. Again, Gary followed up a great offensive line class in 2021 with another really good class. You signed some good players at that position. Obviously got you another top-notch quarterback in Ty Simpson, some good receivers, a lot of speed at the receiver position, Gary, which is valuable. Picked up some really top players on the defensive side. So, again, I think overall when you look at this class and you ask the question, could it be number 1? We'll see.
We'll see. Not over until it's over. Well, of course, 2023 is in full gear as far as recruiting. And yesterday, Alabama picked up its first commitment for the class of 2023, a 4-star safety out of Florida, Elliott Washington II from Venice, and he's the 18th ranked safety in the class. And now, if the name sounds familiar, Rod, it should. His dad, Elliott Washington, played basketball for Wimp Sanderson and is most remembered for that buzzer beater against Arkansas in the semifinals of the 1992 SEC basketball tournament in Birmingham, one of the great college basketball games I've ever seen. You had Robinson, Ori, and Sprewell for Alabama. You had Day, Oliver Miller, and Mayberry for Arkansas, and they went toe-to-toe the whole game, but it was Elliott Washington that won that game. Now, his family said the fact that Elliot Washington played basketball at Alabama didn't have anything to do with it, that he just wanted to play for the Crimson Tide, but it certainly didn't hurt.
No, it didn't hurt, but I think that is accurate, Gary. I think he was looking very strongly at Georgia, Ohio State, Penn State. He had close to 30 offers. You know, the thing I like about him, very instinctive player, very highly competitive player. You're looking for those kind of players, Gary, that aren't afraid to compete. You come to Alabama, there's going to be a lot of competition. And I think he's got the right mindset. He's got, like I said, the really good physical tools that he's got. And you know what, Gary? He plays down there in Venice, Florida.
Yeah.
You know the competition.
Yep.
He started some as a freshman. That tells you a little bit about his ability.
Yeah, he is an athlete, and he gets Alabama's 2023 class off to a great start. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV, the Super Bowl is set, and there are a few former Alabama players, as is usually the case, going to compete coming up in the Super Bowl in Los Angeles between the Rams and the Bengals. And also, we will be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. There's the email address, or you can tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. Well, maybe not the Super Bowl matchup we thought we would have going in the playoffs, but there's Damian Square, big Damian Square. Interesting tidbit on him. The Bengals will play the Rams in Los Angeles. So the Rams will host the Super Bowl after Tampa Bay did last year. But the Bengals with Jonah Williams at tackle. And you saw Damian Square. He both lost to the Bengals and won with the Bengals in the same playoffs. He was with the Raiders when they were eliminated, and then he signed with the Bengals and played Sunday against the Chiefs. Also, you've got A'Shawn Robinson playing for the Rams, and as well as Terrell Lewis, although we don't know if he'll be active for the game. But as always, Alabama well represented in the NFL, and that'll be the case again in the Super Bowl. Right? What do you think of that Super Bowl matchup? The Rams at home, but the Bengals, I got to tell you, we saw it. I hope this doesn't come out wrong. Just real quickly, there's the Alabama guys. Joe Burrow was good enough to take Ed Orgeron national championship. That ought to tell you something about him.
Yeah.
He's pretty good, isn't he?
He was pretty good the other day to go on the road to beat Mahomes there in Kansas City when you're down, 21-3?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing.
And again, they're the Bama guys. Always Bama guys in the Super Bowl. That's what happens. Regardless of who gets there, when you got 50-something guys playing in the NFL, always a good chance you're going to be represented, and that is the case again. The Bengals' previous two Super Bowl trips were losses to the 49ers. Now they play the 49ers' rival, the Rams, which, of course, knocked out the 49ers for a trip to the Super Bowl. And, of course, NFL note, Tom Brady officially announcing his retirement today. All right, let's get to the phone calls. And first up is our buddy Caleb up in Hubbardville. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, guys. Hope you guys are doing good. My question is, who is the potential candidates if Bill O'Brien leaves? Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Caleb. And, yeah, I'm glad you said that if Bill O'Brien leaves, because I still don't think it's a certainty that he will. If he doesn't get the offer he wants in the NFL, he's going to be back here coaching Alabama's offense, I think. But obviously there's an opening in New England. He's worked for Bill Belichick before, so there is a possibility. If O'Brien departs, do you have any names that you might be looking out for?
You know, Gary, the one thing we've learned about Nick Saban, it's unpredictable.
That's
I mean,
right.
who would have predicted that Brian Dable
Right.
would have gotten the job? Nobody really had heard of him. And I don't think anyone really realistically thought he would hire Lane Kiffin.
I don't either.
When he did.
Not at the
And
time.
Sark twice,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the second time. So really, I think it's difficult. And first of all, you hate to speculate when Bill
Guy
O'Brien's
does
still
the job,
here.
yeah.
So.
Well, I know this. You know it, too. Nick Saban's got a list. And people say, well, big names. Well, the minute he hires you as the offensive coordinator, you become a big name.
Right.
That's for sure. All right, going to get an email in right now. This is from Lori in Birmingham. Do you guys believe Paul Tyson will start at Arizona State? Lori, I think this. I think he's going out there with the idea of starting. I mean, I don't think he would have left Alabama to go somewhere, but he didn't think he'd have an opportunity. Now, we know their offensive coordinator is out, but I understand that the family is really high on Herm Edwards, who we know is a really great motivating type of coach, and they feel really comfortable with their decision to go to Arizona State. So, yes, I think he'll be in the mix there to be the starter in 2022.
And there's some competition.
Yeah.
They've recruited really well at the quarterback position. But you're right, Gary. I think he probably investigated his opportunities there. And I think Herm Edwards probably said, look, we're going to give you a fair shake. And that probably closed the deal. But, yeah, I think he certainly has an opportunity to compete.
I can tell you this, I'm pulling for him.
Yeah.
Great young man.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the family of Coach Bryant, and we want to see Paul Tyson go on. He got his degree, will have his degree from Alabama when he transfers out to Tempe to play for Arizona State. All right, phone lines are open, 205-348-WVUA. It's a great opportunity right now to get in, 205-348-9882. Let's get to one more email, Rod. This is from Seth in Northport. What is the latest on football coaching staff? Is Eric Walford going to be the new offensive line coach? Well, we kind of, mentioned that earlier. Again, Rodney, I'm just too old school for the modern reporting. I like guys to be hired before I go on and talk about them being hired. But it's been reported all over now. It appears that he's already here in Tuscaloosa. So, yes, I'm expecting that at some point Eric Walford will be announced from Kentucky as the new offensive line coach at Alabama.
Well, and to my knowledge, has Marrone been announced as gone?
No.
Okay. Well, if Marrone it does leave, that's certainly been the report, is Eric Walford may already be here.
And he's got a great track record. That Kentucky offensive line last year, they were nasty. And I mean that in a good way. They were physical, had a great track record at South Carolina, and has been in a lot of different places. So if that indeed is the new hire at offensive line, coaching spot for Alabama, it looks like it'll be a good
recruiter.
Yeah, a great recruiter. Got a great reputation there. All right, still to come on Tider Insider TV, Alabama women's basketball fell to 2-7 in SEC play on Sunday, and now it's only going to get more difficult for the Tide. They got number 1 coming up. We'll explain after the break. And more phone calls. Phone lines are open, okay? Used to on the Tuesday night before National Signing Day, they'd be lit up. But it's a different time now as far as signing day is concerned. 205, though, 348-9882 is the number. Give us a ring. We'd love to hear from you on Tider Insider TV. We'll be back with more right after this. Ball this past Sunday as they lose at home to Mizzou to fall to 2-7 in the SEC. A lot of the Auburn folks talking about, Auburn's success against Alabama. Well, I got news for you. Alabama wins basketball. I guess the only team that they can beat in the SEC is Auburn. They've swept them. They're 0-7 against everybody else, but they have beat Auburn twice this season. But it's going to get really, really tough now. Alabama has got to go to South Carolina this week, and they're number 1, and they are really good. Don Staley's been the powerhouse there. So Alabama women's basketball, though, you just got to keep going out there and trying to play. But it's been a tough season so far for the Crimson Tide after they made the NCAA tournament last year and won a game in the tournament. All right, let's head back out to the phone lines. Reg, our pal over there in Beeham, is ready to go tonight. Hey, Reg.
Well, hello, guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Let me ask you, who do you think's going to get this Archie Manning kid?
All right, Reg. Arch Manning, grandson of the legendary Archie, nephew of Peyton and Eli, and son of Cooper. He could probably go to any school that he wants to go, but I think Georgia, Alabama, Texas, I mean, you never can count out Ole Miss because of family ties. Those are a few of the schools that are after Arch.
Yeah, and again, he's not this year.
Yeah, 2023, right.
Those that don't know, he still has plenty of time to make a decision. But I do think Gary will probably make a decision sometime this summer. I know that's what you're hearing. That's kind of what I've heard. I think Alabama's certainly in the mix there, even though I do think Alabama's got some good young quarterbacks here. But we'll see. Again, the thing is, Gary, is you mentioned all the opportunities he has. He's just got to find the right fit for him where he feels comfortable. And right now, there's a lot of buzz about Georgia.
All right, and we had a caller that dropped off the line. Carlos from Birmingham wanted to know about Alex Chiku, the basketball player from Paris, France. About 6'11", 7 feet tall, really hasn't played this year. Alex, he's just not ready. I mean, that's about all I can tell you. And that doesn't mean that he won't be down the road, but this year they just don't feel like he's ready to play in the Southeastern Conference. So still trying to get him, stronger, bigger, stronger, and we'll see what happens with him down the road. But he is not a factor, it looks like, this season for Alabama. All right, Rod, let's get to an email, and this is from Simon in Tuscaloosa. When will Bama begin spring practice? Simon, I don't know. They have not released those dates yet. I can tell you, Rodney, that based on recent history, it's usually been about the 3rd week of March, somewhere in that range, 19th, 20th of March. So I would assume it's probably going to be a similar time, and A-Day's usually mid-April, but I don't know for sure yet because they haven't released the dates. But that would be my guess.
Yeah, usually, Coach Saban has the one practice before spring break, and then they come back, resume practice, have the other 14 practices. And A-Day is usually, the 3rd Saturday in April. So, but again, nothing official.
All right, quick phone call. John in Birmingham. Hey, John, go ahead.
Gary, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, can Alabama sign 27 players tomorrow? How many can it get tomorrow, man?
All right, John. Well, as we said already, I don't know if they're going to sign anybody. They got 23. They're going to look to the portal, too. Best case scenario, if you want to look at it like that, is it might sign 2 tomorrow. That'd probably be the most, don't you think, Rod?
I would think if that.
Yeah.
If that. Now, again, I do think the portal, maybe down the road, could produce a few more.
All right, we will see, though, because tomorrow is the second national signing. Like I said, this is so different than it used to be. I think that remember when this used to be like a holiday?
It was an event. It was an event.
All right. All right, we are going to go ahead and take our last break. Still to come, a pair of Alabama stars are ready for the Senior Bowl showcase. We'll give you the latest news from Mobile coming up right here on TITV. It's a beautiful night in T-Town. Stay with us. Senior Bowl week in Mobile is officially underway. This is video from practice today. First time the players are on the field in front of the NFL scouts and coaches. Both Alabama players, running back Brian Robinson Jr. and defensive lineman Phidarian Mathis, are on the national team roster. Earlier this week, Robinson and Mathis had their official measurements taken. Robinson measured in at 6'1" and 226 pounds. That's pretty good for running back. Phidarian Mathis, 6'3" and 313. Of course, Alabama last year had a huge draft class. This year, not quite as many seniors, but with the juniors leaving early, still be a lot of players drafted from Alabama. But those two young men there at the Senior Bowl looking to make some hay, Rodney. And they're an example. We see all the guys that come into Alabama leave early. They're guys that stayed 5 years and just kept raising their stock. And now I look for both of them possibly to be second or third round draft picks.
Yeah, and I think because of that, Gary, that they stayed, they developed.
Mm-hmm.
I think they developed a lot of leadership. You look at Phidarian Mathis, I thought he was the heart and soul of that defense, that defensive line. And I think when you look at Brian Robinson, his opportunity came his senior year. What did he rush for, Gary? Was it 1,400 yards, close to it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and think just down the road at Hillcrest High School to the NFL. You'd love to see it. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch a replay following the news at 10 tonight at 10:30, or you can find us anytime online at WVOA23.com. Rodney will also have a link to the show at TiderInsider.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody. And there we go, Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Also, some Alabama women's tennis this weekend beating UAB. We'll leave you with that tonight, and we will talk to you again next Tuesday. Have a great night, everybody, and roll Tide.